Please join me for a few minutes of chanting the names of Sita and Ram, and after that I'll talk to you about the meaning, the spiritual meaning of Diwali. Bhajo Raghupati बोलो साकेत बिहारी श्री राघवेंद्र सरकार की। We've all gathered here tonight at Radha Madhav Dham to celebrate Diwali. And Diwali is one of the biggest celebrations of the year. Although, if you examine our calendar, our Hindu calendar, and you include every puja, every special day, we would probably have not just one celebration every day, but probably multiple celebrations every day. But out of all of that, Diwali is a very favorite one of everybody and is celebrated in a very grand style. It's called the Festival of Lights. You all know this, and people love to celebrate Diwali. And one of the reasons you come here to Radha Madhav Dham to celebrate Diwali is to remember also the spiritual meaning behind it. In modern times, Diwali, socially speaking, is a holiday. We get to get together with family. A lot of people get to go back to India, or maybe some people visit from India to America during Diwali time. It's a beautiful time to be together with our family, which is part of Diwali. but you all know that there's a deeper spiritual meaning behind it as well, which is why we're here tonight, so that we can remind ourselves of that and celebrate Diwali in a spiritual way and get spiritual benefit from remembering this day. So what is the meaning of Diwali? Well, just like there are many, many festivals, in fact, each festival represents many things or has been marked historically by many events, and Diwali is no exception. But even though there are quite a few, there are several divine events, divine leelas that are associated with this day of Diwali, which is always the new moon, the Amavasya of November. The most important one, the one which is most prominent in people's minds, has to do with Bhagwan Ram. Well, many of you know this story, but many of you don't, and many of your children don't. So I'm going to briefly recount what is important in relation to Bhagwan Ram on this Diwali day. So most of you know that Ram is God. He is Supreme God who descended on this earth planet. The same one God who rules over the entire universe, who is the creator, maintainer, and destroyer of the universe. Yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat prayantyabhisam vishanti tad brahma. Taittiriya Upanishad says the definition of God is the one from whom everything came, in whom everything is currently residing, and into whom it all returns when the universe is dissolved. That is Supreme God. And that Supreme God, Anantanama Rupaya, our Vedas say, one single Supreme God has uncountable names and forms. Avatara hyasankhyeya hare sattvanidher dvija. Bhagavatam says that God has taken uncountable descensions on this earth planet we call avatar. But out of all of those avatar, there are two which are called Leela avatar or Leela avatar. They are Ram and Krishna. God always descends for some reason. God doesn't do anything whimsically or without a reason. In fact, prayojana manuddishya mandopi na pravartate. Darshan Shastra says even a complete fool doesn't do anything without a reason. So if everybody has a reason for everything that they do, well, God must also have a reason for coming on this earth planet. He has specific reasons for each time that he descends. But the descension of Ram and the descension of Krishna is very special because they come specifically to reveal Leelas. Some people wonder, why did Ram come? Tulsidas Ji says, Hari Avatar Hetu Jehi Hoi Idamitham Kahi Jat Na Soi. There are so many reasons that God has in his mind when he descends on this earth planet that he could never count all of them. Just like, let's say, maybe you knew you were coming to Radha Madhav Dham today, and maybe you live in Round Rock. So you probably thought, if I'm going to go all the way to Radha Madhav Dham, what else can I do while I'm down there? Maybe I can stop at this store on the way and meet this person on the way back. You combine activities in one trip. So again, we're of limited intelligence, and if we're able to do that, then you can imagine that when God comes on this earth planet, he probably accomplishes many things at once. However, Jagavistara hi vimalayash Rama janma karahetu. From a soul's point of view, the most important reason for God's descension is that he reveals himself while he's here. Soi gun gai bhagat bhav tarhi. See, when Ram and Krishna come, they come specifically to reveal Leelas. Leelas means they're divine actions, amazing, heart-enticing divine actions that we know about by reading Ramayana or hearing a recitation of Ramayana or of Bhagavatam, or of watching the movie, the serial Ramayana or Mahabharata or Shri Krishna, or of listening to any katha. We hear about these Leelas of Ram and Krishna, and it becomes the means of doing devotion. Bhakti. Bhakti is done by remembering God, and what easier way to remember God than think of His Leelas? Everybody loves a story, so God has provided us with many stories, not made up stories. What's in the Ramayana and Bhagavatam and Mahabharata are historical accounts of what God did when He visited this earth planet. So during the Ram's Leelas, when he was here, Dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge Gita. Shri Krishna says, I keep coming. Throughout all the yugas, through the ages, I keep visiting the earth planet because there's always a need. So I'm always fulfilling some need or another by visiting the earth planet. He came as himself, as Shri Krishna, in Dwapar Yuga, at the end of Dwapar, only 5,000 years ago. But before that, in Treta Yuga, he came as Ram. Ram grew up in a city that we know even today as Ayodhya, or Avadhi, Avadhesh. He grew up like any boy, amazingly, although he was an amazing boy. But you see, when Ram and Krishna came on the earth planet, they wanted to reveal Leelas that would appeal to ordinary people like us. So he thought, people get so attached to their little kids, to their children. We get very quickly attached to a cute little baby. Even if it's not yours, it's very charming to watch a young child. So Ram thought, let me also come as a young child. Even though he first appeared in his full-grown form, but then he transformed himself into a little baby. And he grew up. He grew up there in the city of Ayodhya, where his father, Dashrath, was the king, and his mother, Kaushalya, was the queen. So he had to learn everything, just like we do. In the beginning, his mother used to nurse him. Then when he started to get teeth, he cried just like we did, because when the teeth come in, they hurt. And he started chewing on food, eating solid food. He started learning a few words here and there that he would speak in a stuttering kind of way, like babies pronounce things. He learned how to walk, first holding his mother's hand, and then on his own. And he'd take a few steps and fall. Then he'd get tired of falling, so he'd crawl around. When he got bigger, then he started playing outside with his 3 brothers. And then he got older and he went to school. He learned bow and arrow. He learned Rajniti, the art of ruling and kingship. He learned the art of warfare. So even though he is supreme God and he knows all of this, he did the Leela of growing up and learning all of that. And Ram, who is Maryada Purushottam Brahm, he is like the perfect representation of dharma, of righteous living, according to the laws of the Vedas, the Vidhi Nishedh of the Vedas. So Ram came to teach people through his own behavior how to follow dharma. So as part of that, he had to go to the jungle. He had many reasons for going to the jungle. He also wanted to grace many sages and saints who were living there in the jungles of Madhya Pradesh and other places in India. But part of it was also honoring a request by his mother, Kaikeyi, and honoring a word, a vachan, which had been given by his father, Dashrath. So to honor that, Ram went to the jungle, he went to the forest with Sita, after he had already been married to Sita, and with Lakshman. While he was there in the jungle for those 14 years, Sita got abducted by Ravan. Ravan, who in fact it's told in the Ramayana, was one of Ram's close personal associates from the divine world. You know, in Vaikuntha abode, there are gatekeepers. They're called Jay and Vijay, divine gatekeepers. They're servants, eternal divine servants of God. They came on the earth planet in the form of Ravana and Kumbhakarna, two immensely powerful demons. So, Ravan, as part of Ram's Leelas, abducted Sita. And Ram spent a long time searching for Sita, trying to find where Ravan had taken her. Even though he's God, so why should he have to look for anything? How could he be fooled by anything? He's omnipresent and all-knowing. When Ravan was thinking about abducting Sita, Ram knew he was thinking about doing it. When Ravan was forming his plan, how am I going to do it? How am I going to trick Ram so that I can abduct Sita? Ram knew what he was planning. Yet he allowed it to happen because it was part of the Leela. So with the help of the Vanar Sena, with the help of Sugriv and Hanuman and everybody, they were able to locate Sita, who was being held in Sri Lanka, there in the beautiful city of Ravana. So Ram went over there, fought a war, killed Ravan, installed his younger brother, Ravan's younger brother, Vibhishan, on the throne of Lanka, and then came back to Ayodhya. All of this, what I just told you in gist, took 14 years. Now imagine after 14 years, Ram is returning to Ayodhya. Who was Ram to those residents of Ayodhya? He was their everything. The residents of Ayodhya were also not ordinary people like you and I. They were divine personalities who knew and recognized who Ram was, and who recognized Ram as the form of divine bliss. Ramante yogino nante satyanande chidatmani iti ram padena sau. The Ved says, do you know what Ram means? Ram means bliss, divine bliss. That divine bliss which is so great that even yogis and jnanis who are absorbed in the bliss of formless God, they wish to enjoy the bliss of the personal form of God in the form of Ram. That is Ram. So those residents of Ayodhya got to interact with Ram for the first part of his life while he was there in Ayodhya, and they experienced that divine bliss. And then he was gone. He was gone to the forest for 14 years. So you can imagine the separation they felt from Ram and the tremendous excitement with which they awaited Ram's return. So now we come to Diwali Day. What is Diwali Day? The day Ram returned to Ayodhya. So they had received word that Ram is coming and he's going to arrive. So what did they do? All the millions of residents of Ayodhya, first they cleaned, just like you all clean on Diwali. It's a tradition. You clean every corner of your house. Like in America, they call it spring cleaning. So we have Diwali cleaning. They cleaned every corner of their house, their courtyard, windows, doors, everything. And then they decorated everything with lights, with diyas. And they placed diyas on every windowsill and along every rooftop and along every boundary wall, so that the entire city was lit up with all of these diyas. If they had satellite imagery in those days, it would have shown up like nowadays, like a city shows up with all of its electric lights glowing. Back in those days, it would have been an amazing sight to see the entire city of Ayodhya aglow in anticipation of Ram's return. So everybody, with great excitement, decorated their home, hopeful that Ram would come to them and acknowledge their feelings when he returned. So as Ram came back to Ayodhya and he was amazed by the beauty of his city lit up, he recognized in the hearts of every one of his devotees there that they all had a desire to meet him first. But Ram was only one. So he decided, okay, I'll use my Yogamaya Shakti, my divine power, to meet everybody at the same time. Charnamahamile sabahi bhagavana. Ram took as many forms as there were people in Ayodhya, and he met each person simultaneously. But the amazing thing was, nobody else saw Ram meeting anybody else. Every single person thought that Ram has come to me first. Out of all of these people in Ayodhya, Ram came to me. But in fact, he met everybody like that simultaneously because he's Ram, he's God. He just manifested himself in many, many forms all at once. So this is the excitement with which we remember Diwali even today. We think that Ram did this divine Leela. He left Ayodhya. He stayed in the jungle, gracing many saints and sages for 14 years, doing many amazing Leelas on his Banwas, and then returned to Ayodhya. So we can imagine what would it have been like if we could have been there on that day. That's why we decorate everything with lights, to remember that event. And after that, Ram ruled in Ayodhya for 11,000 years. And of course, there are many events of that time as well, one which I'll get to just at the end of my speech. There's one more thing I wanted to share with you regarding the meaning of Diwali. Meaning light. Light has a meaning as well. I told you the event, the main event, which is associated with Diwali. But there's a meaning behind the light itself. You see, light means life. Light means knowledge. In Sanskrit, we have a word, chit, chetan, which means divine and alive. So what is alive? There are two things that are alive. God is alive and souls are alive. Nothing else is alive. You might say, well, I have a house plant in my home. That's alive. Is the plant alive? No, the plant is not alive. The soul that's inside your plant is alive. The soul inhabiting your plant is giving life to the plant, to the body of the plant. Just like, is my body alive? Not really. It seems to be alive because I'm here. I means the soul. My soul is inhabiting this body, thus the body functions as a living organism. But if the soul leaves, what happens? Does the body work anymore? The ears are still there, but if the soul has gone, doesn't matter how good those ears still look, you can yell all you want in the person's ear, he's not going to hear you. His eyes are still there, but he can't see anything. The soul is gone, so the body doesn't work. Soul is alive. Nothing else in this world is alive. It's all just energy, which takes the form of a body, and when there's a soul inhabiting it, then it's alive. And God is Maha Chetan. Chetanash Chetanana. Shvetashvatropanishad says, God is the one giving life to every single soul. God is like the sun, but a sun of unlimited brightness and power. And each individual soul is ansh of God. Ansh means a part or a spark of. So imagine a great fire burning, and out of that fire come these little sparks. Each one of us is like one of those sparks, and God is like that unlimited fire. So He is Vibhuchit, and we are Anuchit. Vibhu means unlimited and omnipresent. God is everywhere at once. And we are Anu. We're a little spark, spot existent, infinitesimal in size, but divine. Now, if there's light, there's darkness, right? There's always an opposite. So what is the darkness? That which is not alive. What is not alive? Maya. Maya means the whole world and the energy of this world. It's not a living thing, it's a lifeless energy. So we have three things. We have Mahachetan Bhagwan, unlimited light, God. We have little sparks of light, uncountable little sparks of light, all the souls. And then we have the darkness, Maya. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ji says, Jaha Surya Taha Nahi Mayar Adhikar. Where there's the sun, Maya cannot be. Meaning, where there's light, there cannot be darkness. Is it possible for the sun to be out and it to be night? No. When the sun is there, the darkness is gone automatically. But if the sun is gone, there's no way to banish the night. In the middle of the night with the sun gone, if we light all the hills on fire, and we light up all the lights of Austin, and everybody gets all their flashlights out, and lights all their candles, in other words, we try to produce as much light as we can to get rid of the night. We don't want the darkness. It won't work. Doesn't matter how much light we produce, the darkness will never go until the sun comes. This is an analogy for our situation. We are in this Maya. We're in this material world, and we're bound by Maya. And our mind is attached in Maya. And as part of that, we actually forget who we are. We forget that we're a divine spark, that we're a divine soul who belongs to God. That's our actual identity. Jivera swarupa hoy Krishnera nitya das. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ji says, it's the true identity of every soul that we belong to God. But we forget that. We truly believe we belong to this world. Do we not? That's why we look for happiness from the world. We think, this world is mine, surely I will find happiness here. If we believe that God is mine, wouldn't we look to Him for happiness? So we're bound in this Maya. Our mind and heart are tied up in Maya. We're attached in Maya. We believe that we belong to this Maya. In other words, we've forgotten who we are. Bhayam dvitiya bhiniveshatasya dishadapetasya viparyayo smriti bhagavatam. Thus, every soul is eternally turned away from God and bound up in this Maya. So we've actually turned our back on the sun and we're facing darkness. We've turned towards the night and we've turned our back on the sun. So how can there ever be light? Light meaning true knowledge, true bliss. We're all suffering to some degree in this world, and the reason we're suffering means mental suffering, stress, disappointment, sadness, depression, physical suffering, all kinds of suffering. We're not happy, not perfectly happy. We're happy intermittently, momentarily. We're never happy for long. Why? Because we've turned our back on happiness. That's like the sun. God is sun. God is the bliss. God is knowledge and bliss personified, and we've turned our back on Him, and we're facing the darkness of this world. Facing means we're hoping to find happiness from a world which is not perfect, which is a material, lifeless energy. And we've turned our back on God, who is divine, live bliss. And we've forgotten our true identity. And we try by all means to find happiness in this world. In other words, we try by all means to drive away the darkness. We light up all the lights that we have, whatever is within our power, yet we never find day. That's because the day only comes when the sun comes, and the sun is God. So on Diwali, it also means that we have to turn towards God, or we have to bring God into our heart. Someone might wonder that why this Maya has power over us, how the darkness could cover us when we are also little sparks of light. Well, see, this metal reflects. There's some ansh of Surya in here. Surya means the sun. Sun is the origin of all light. But there's a little spark, a little fraction of that in any kind of metal. The more precious the metal, the more shiny it is. But even if we have silver or gold, and it appears to be very shiny, because there's an ansh of that light in there. Yet if you turn out all the lights, what happens? The gold doesn't shine enough to give light in a room. It's just a tiny bit of glow that's in the gold. So in other words, we're tiny fractions of God. We're tiny sparks of that great divine fire. So we don't give off enough light to drive away the darkness on our own. If we turn our back on the sun, then the darkness takes over. Maya takes over. So since we have our back turned to God, we've turned towards the darkness. The darkness has covered our true self, our true divine spark that we are. And the only way to change that is to turn towards God. The moment a soul turns towards God, Jushtam yada pasyatyanyamishamasya mahimanamiti vita shokah. Veda says the moment you turn towards God, it's day. In other words, the effect of Maya is gone on you. You remember who you are. I'm the divine soul. All of your suffering is finished forever. You meet God face to face, you meet Ram, you meet Krishna face to face, and you enjoy divine bliss and are blessed with divine knowledge forever. Sada pashyanti suraya tad vishno paramam padam. Ved says, then you become divinely blissful forever. So on Diwali we remember all of these things. The Leela of Ram returning to Ayodhya, the meaning of light and darkness, that the ultimate light is God. And although we are sparks of light, if we want to attain true bliss and true knowledge, we also have to turn towards God. Turning towards God means surrender. And surrender is done from in here. Here at Radha Madhav Dham, we teach a process of becoming surrendered to God. It's simply called bhakti. You all know bhakti. But our founder, Jagadguru Shri Kripaluji Maharaj, who has condensed and simplified all the knowledge of the scriptures of Hinduism and given us the essence of that knowledge. So as part of that essence, he says, true bhakti is done from the heart. So if you attach your mind to Ram, if you attach your mind to Krishna, you are becoming surrendered to them. How do you attach your mind to them? Remember their leelas. chant their name, do kirtan of their name, kirtan of their leelas, and remember them in your heart. That's it. This is bhakti. And as you do this, your heart is purified, and more of God's light, meaning more of God's grace, starts entering your heart. And as that happens, those latent good qualities, those daivi gunas in a person's heart, they start manifesting. Because they're developing the light in their own being through receiving God's grace. And the dark qualities, the negative qualities that are inherent in the mind, they're suppressed, they're reduced. So it's a process. The more you remember God faithfully, lovingly, without asking Him for anything, just because we belong to Him, so why shouldn't we surrender our mind to Him? The more you do that, the more His grace and light enter your heart, the more all of your good qualities develop, the more true divine happiness and divine knowledge are revealed in your heart, and ultimately, when our heart is fully purified, then we get the ultimate divine bliss and knowledge, and we get to meet God face to face. So this is the meaning of Diwali, which Ram also mentioned to his beloved residents of Ayodhya when he gave the speech to them, when he called them one day. Though it was a long speech, I'll just tell you one important point from that. He said, Bade bhagya manush tanu pava sura durlabh sadgranthan gava. Oh, my brothers and sisters of Ayodhya, Sri Ram said, you have received a human birth through great good fortune. This human birth is desired by all living beings, even celestial gods, devatas, want to be born as a human being. Kabahu kari karuna nar dehi det ish binu hetu sanehi. But an individual soul only occasionally receives birth as a human being. You also can be born in other living forms. But as other living forms, you don't have a chance to turn towards God. Only as a human being do you have a chance to know about God, worship God, and attain God. In other words, you can only attain the true meaning of Diwali if you're born as a human being. So he told them, Jo na tarai bhav sagar nar samaj as pai so krit nindak mandmati atmahan gati jai. He says, make use of this human birth. He's admonishing the residents of Ayodhya and in a way admonishing all of us. You're born as a human. It's a golden opportunity. Know God with this chance that you've been given. How do you know Him? Well, you have to find a good source of that knowledge, and that's what Radha Madhav Dham is. So make your human life successful. Wherever you are, whatever you do on a daily basis, keep doing it. But remember that this human life is limited. And when it's done, we could go anywhere in any species. So we have to think of finding God in this life. Along with all of our other responsibilities, we have to think of that as well, because that's the true desire of our soul. So Radha Madhav Dham is here to fulfill that part of your life. You not only have physical needs in your life and social needs, you have spiritual needs. You need correct knowledge of the Hindu scriptures. You need correct knowledge of what is the path to God and how to follow that. What is bhakti? How do I do bhakti? How can I improve my life through spiritual means? That's why Radha Madhav Dham is here. That's why I came here. I've been living here since 2000. Although many of you may not see me very often nowadays because I'm usually out traveling around America giving speeches at different Hindu mandirs. But I made this my home because I was benefited by Radha Madhav Dham, by the teachings of Jagadguru Shri Kripaluji Maharaj and the way that he explains our Hindu scriptures. So you can, to whatever extent you want to, come here and take advantage of what Radha Madhav Dham is offering. And we're all very happy to have you here with us on Diwali, and we'd like to see you not just next Diwali, but many, many times in between as well. So with these words, I conclude my message today. Jai Shri Radhe and Bole Raghavendra Sarkar ki